The NFL draft is officially underway, and the excitement is palpable as we dive into round two. The clock is ticking, and the Las Vegas Raiders are gearing up for their next big move. The second and third rounds are right around the corner, with the action set to kick off at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. There's a lot of anticipation in the air, and it's clear that some major deals are about to go down. Teams might even trade up, especially for a quarterback. And that brings us to one name that's been buzzing around, Shador Sanders. Now, I know not everyone is sold on Shader Sanders. In fact, some fans can't stand the guy. It's almost crazy how divided opinions are on him. But here's the thing. When you look at his potential, it's hard to ignore. Mel Kiper Jr. even thought he could go number one overall. And for a while, I agreed with that assessment. But as the season progressed, things started to shift. Cam Ward started to heat up and showed his ability to run a high-powered offense, quickly establishing himself as QB1. Yet, despite the rise of Ward, Shador's name still holds weight. People were shocked when the New York Giants traded back into the first round, thinking maybe Shador was their guy. But nope, they picked Jackson Dart instead. That left many people scratching their heads. The question now is, where will Shador land? I don't think he's going to fall too far. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cleveland Browns swooped in and took him at the 33rd pick. If they don't, and Shador is still there, the Raiders have to seriously consider him. Sure, they could grab a starting guard or a wide receiver, but why not take a chance on a quarterback who could develop into something special? The Raiders could sit him behind Jimmy Garoppolo for a year or two, just like the Kansas City Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes and the Green Bay Packers did with Aaron Rodgers. Give him time to learn, build confidence, and then unleash him when he's ready. That's how you build a long-term success story. But let's be real. Bringing in Shador may not make an immediate impact on the Raiders' win column. There are other players in this draft who could contribute right away. So while Shador is an option, let's talk about some other prospects who could elevate the Raiders this season. We've got a solid pool of wide receivers, and the Raiders will likely snag one of them. In fact, there are about 12 solid options that should still be on the board by the time the Raiders make their pick. So the question is, which one of these playmakers will help make the Raiders' offense dangerous? Let's start with Luther Burden, a wide receiver who's quickly climbing the ranks in the NFL scouting world. The 2024 NFL Draft has no shortage of talent, and the Raiders are in a great position to land a key piece to help their roster. The clock is ticking, and it's time to make a move. Let's see what the next rounds bring. As we dig deeper into the draft, one name that stands out is Luther Burden. This guy was once ranked the top prospect by Bleo, the scouting agency trusted by NFL teams, and it's a little mind-boggling how he fell down the board. Burden had an incredible year, but I think some teams were hesitant because he doesn't fit the mold of a typical wide receiver. He's not a towering, dominant figure like Justin Jefferson. Instead, he's more of a versatile playmaker, much like Deebo Samuel, someone who can do it all. But here's the catch. The Raiders don't need a traditional wide receiver. With Brock Bowers already in the mix, Burden wouldn't need to be that classic X receiver. Bowers can handle that role while Burden can be moved around the field, creating chaos. Imagine him on end-arounds, breaking tackles. He led all wide receivers last season in broken tackles. That's playmaking at its finest. Sure, he's not the best route runner, but he gets the job done, and in the SEC no less, with a quarterback who's not exactly a CJ Stroud. If the Raiders have the chance to grab Burden in the second round, they'd be getting a game-changing weapon. Think about it. Just a few days ago, the Raiders didn't have someone with the type of explosive ability Burden offers. Adding him to the roster would immediately improve their offense. Now, it's not just Burden that the Raiders should keep an eye on. There are a couple of other intriguing prospects out there that I wouldn't mind seeing in silver and black. One of those is Isaiah Bond, a speedy playmaker who can light up the field. Then there's Kyle Williams from Washington State, a guy who reminds me a lot of Burden, but with a different set of strengths. While Burden is the better playmaker, Williams excels at route running. At 5'11", he's not the tallest, but his ability to separate from defenders is elite. If the Raiders can land one of these two, they're set. Speaking of wide receivers, this year's draft is unique. We saw 4 wide receivers taken in the first round, and while some may have thought the Raiders were missing out, there's a deeper pool of talent in the second round. People often underestimate second-round picks, thinking of them as project players, but trust me, there's still a ton of starting caliber talent. Take the time to draft wisely, and you could land a potential game changer. With the depth in the wide receiver pool, the Raiders could walk away with someone who will make an immediate impact. Kyle Williams' route running is reminiscent of Devontae Adams, and Bond's speed can add an entirely new dimension to the offense. The Raiders already have Trey Tucker, but Bond might have even more upside. Tucker's been in the NFL for 2 years, but Bond's ceiling could be even higher. Trey Tucker has potential, no doubt about it, but don't just assume that Isaiah Bond is a guaranteed upgrade. Tucker, drafted in the fourth round, maybe even the third, was highly regarded coming into the draft. Bond, however, has huge upside. I believe he'll be taken in the top 15 of the upcoming round, and once he hits the NFL, if used correctly by the right coordinator, he's going to thrive. Take Xavier Worthy, for example. He went to the Chiefs and, under a great offensive system, found success after adjusting to the NFL. Bond has that same potential. But let's not forget, the Raiders are still in need of a wide receiver, though they have other positions to focus on too. The quarterback class, for instance, has some guys who were projected as top 10 to 15 picks, but fell due to injuries. Will Johnson is one of them. Originally projected as a top 5 pick, Johnson's stock took a hit due to a turf toe injury. He tried to rehab and participate in off-season activities, but that might have hurt him more. Despite that, Johnson still has the potential to be the best corner in this draft if he's fully healthy. He may not go in the first round, but if he falls to the Raiders, they should absolutely go all in on him. If I were the Raiders, I'd even consider trading up to get him. Then there's Siobhan Revel Jr., another corner with elite athleticism. Revel's ACL injury is a concern, but he's still a top talent. Unlike Johnson, Revel may be available later in the draft, potentially in the third round. If I'm the Raiders, I'd be seriously considering him too, especially given his potential to be the best corner of this class. Now, moving to the defensive line, there's Deon Walker, a guy who I think could be a game changer. He's got the tools to be a dominant defensive tackle at the next level, and his pass rushing technique and movement are impressive, especially considering his size. I believe he'll be gone before the third round, likely going in the second round. If the Raiders can grab him, they'd be adding a player who could be the best defensive tackle in this draft class. Last year, a defensive tackle taken later in the draft ended up being the best of the bunch, so don't be fooled by where a player is picked. What matters is what they bring to the field. For the Raiders, adding someone like Walker could drastically improve their run defense. The Raiders need players who can stop the run while also providing a strong pass rush. Deon Walker could help solidify the defensive line, giving the team a better chance at shutting down high-powered offenses like those led by Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. Deon Walker is another player the Raiders should seriously consider. If they want him, they'd likely need to grab him in the second round. It would be a surprise to see him last until the third. Last year, DeAndre Sweat, similar to Walker, was drafted in the early rounds, and while Walker is bigger, he might be the better pass rusher. Walker has a ton of upside, and he could easily be the best defensive tackle in this class. Another name to keep an eye on is Cam Jackson. While he might not go in the second round, his Senior Bowl performance shows his potential. At 6 feet 6 inches and 330 pounds, Jackson is massive and plays with impressive leverage. He has solid pass rush skills and can be a strong run defender, similar to Walker. While Jackson might fall to the third round, he's a solid pick for teams in need of a dominant defensive tackle. The Raiders should also look to the edge players, especially as Malcolm Kuntz is likely in his final year with the team. Mike Green from Marshall is a standout edge player. His off-field issues have caused some teams to back off, but from a pure football standpoint, he's arguably the best edge rusher in this class. Green has the potential to be a top-tier pass rusher, drawing comparisons to Max Crosby. If the Raiders take a chance on him, they might land a gem. Donovan Asrock from Boston College is another interesting prospect. While he has good pass rush moves and solid technique, his height might hold him back. Still, his potential makes him a valuable pick, either in the second or third round. The Raiders could look to land him in the second round if they want to improve their pass rush. Lastly, JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State is a player the Raiders should seriously consider. He's a top-tier edge rusher who could be drafted within the next 15 picks. Tuimoloau's skill set and potential make him an ideal fit for the Raiders. Landon Jackson from LSU, who models his game after Max Crosby, is also worth considering. His work ethic and drive to be great could make him a future star. With the Raiders holding the sixth pick in the second round, one of these players should be available. Whether it's Luther Burden, Kyle Williams, Landon Jackson, or Will Johnson, the Raiders will have great options to bolster their defense. When it comes to day one starters, the Raiders have some solid options. JT Talamalo might not be one, but his tape is better than Tyreek Wilson's in my opinion, and he's available in the second round. Landon Jackson at 6 feet 6 inches has a great football IQ and awareness, which makes up for his less explosive first step. Pairing him with Max Crosby would give the Raiders a top-tier edge rush duo. Braden Swinson out of LSU is another sleeper who could be one of the best pass rushers in this class. He's 6 feet 4 inches and has incredible pass rush technique, ranking just below Mike Green, who's arguably better. The edge class is stacked, with around 12 guys who could make an impact in the NFL. Offensively, if Jalen Rivers is available in the second round, the Raiders need to take him. At 6 feet 6 inches, 320 pounds, and with nearly 35-inch arms, he's a versatile player who dominated at the Senior Bowl. While he played tackle at Miami, he impressed as a guard at the Senior Bowl and could start there immediately. His performance there was the best I saw, and he could be the top guard from this class. There's still a ton of great interior offensive linemen left, but if I'm the Raiders, I'm targeting this guy in the third round if he's available. Tate Ratledge is one of those guys with incredible tape. These are all day one starters for the Raiders, so we're not looking for projects here. You can slot any of these guys in at left guard from day one. Even though Tate technically played right guard, he could easily switch to left guard. It's all about mental reps. Ratledge is a guy who's going to start right away. Sure, he missed some time this season, but he's still a solid guard. A couple of other guys I like are Anthony Belton and Charles Grant. Belton could play tackle or guard, and he's a big guy. 6 feet 6 inches, 336 pounds. If he gets the right coaching, he could become an all-pro player. For the Raiders, I think he's a second-round pick, but we could see him slide to the third. Now, let's talk about Charles Grant. The Raiders met with him, and he could be a target in the second or third round. He's one I'd definitely keep an eye on, but if the Raiders bring in Grant, I think DJ Glaze is still the starter. Glaze showed a lot of potential last year, and with time, he'll keep getting better. Tyree Wilson was a project, but we gave him time to develop, and I'm hopeful he'll come through in year 2. Switching gears to linebacker and safety, Demetrius Knight Jr. is probably the next linebacker to go, but don't sleep on Carson Swinesinger from UCLA. Both guys are second or third round picks. Linebackers can be system players, so even if they aren't drafted high, they can still excel. If you look at guys like Jalen Ramsey and Charles Woodson, they're exceptions. Elite players don't come around often. At safety, there's only one taken so far, Malachi Starks. If the Raiders want to replace Trayvon Mullen, they could go for a safety like him. Nick Emmanwori is another option. He's athletic as heck and runs a 4.38 40-yard dash, so he could play either as a box safety or deep safety. So day 2 is here, and the Raiders got a lot better yesterday. John Spy made some great picks, and I'm excited to see how we continue to improve today. I'll be doing a film breakdown on Ashton Jeanty soon, and I've got a few other breakdowns in the works. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.